Today's daf is daf Yud Zayin. We'll start with Toner Rabbanan on the bottom of Tezayin Omid Beis. Ketzav Meragdim Lifnei Akala. Rashi says, Ma Omrim Lifaneha. Beit Shammai Omrim, and here we turn to today's daf Yud Zayin. Kala Kemos Shehi. We should not have any standard uniform praise for the Kala while we dance in front of her. It depends what she is. We're not going to exaggerate. We're not going to lie. No fabrications. Tell it like it is. Tosa says, "Im yesh ba mum yishtaku." Let's say nothing. Better to say nothing than to start lying and say how beautiful the kala is. Inami, Tosa offers a second interpretation of Beit Shammai. Yishabchu b'davar not sheyesh ba. He'll find something that he can praise the kala for. Kigon be'einah, she has beautiful eyes. O biyadeh, she has beautiful hands. Could you imagine dancing in front of a kala about the beauty of her hands? What kind of an insult that would be? Beis Hillel omrim yishabchu legamre. Sky's the limit. You know, I like the potato kugel. You didn't like the chicken, you didn't like the soup. Beis Hillel omrim kala nova chasuda. Rashi says kala nova chasuda utshel chesed moshuch oleha. I can only translate it as grace. Omelem Beit Shammai Beis Hillel Rachel Isach Igeres Osuma. She's a hinkadiker or she's blind. Chi omrim lo kala nova chasuda. La Torah omrim midvar sheker tirchak. There was once a justice of the Supreme Court. His name was Black. And freedom of speech, guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. You can get up in a crowded cinema and yell out, fire! Freedom of speech. People will be trampled to death. The Omrim lo kala nova chasuda v'hatorah Omrim midvar sheker tichav Omrim Beis Hillel Beit Shammai l'divreichem misha lokach mekach ra min hashuk. A person bought something, we call it a lemon, and he shows it to you. You have two choices: are you shabchenu b'einov or you gananenu b'einov? Should you praise the sale and the purchase, or should you put it down? Heavy over, certainly you would agree shabchenu b'einov. And in the Nimchal, if a man marries a woman, obviously he thinks that he's getting a good deal. And now you're going to ruin it for him? Be careful what you say. Now, I don't know why Beis Hillel think that Beit Shammai would be moda in the case of Mekach. And then that would be a jumping off for an analogy and boxing Beit Shammai into the corner. In my humble opinion, Beit Shammai would disagree, even in the case of a Mekach. Doesn't mean you have to tell him what a bad, lousy Mekach is and how he wasted his time and his money. But don't lie. Don't fabricate the truth. You know, just tell him, okay, you know, it is what it is. It has some nice features to it, you know. Tishabchenu biyadeha. Mikan omru chachamim Beis Hillel say that we should actually praise the Mekach and the Kala. And from hence we derive a moral principle. Amru chachamim li'olam tehei daito shel adam moreves imabrios. Should try to satisfy and make other people happy with what they have, and therefore yishabchenu b'eino. Ki aser Rav Dimi Omar. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Babel, he would report how they danced in front of the Kala in Eretz Yisrael. Hachi Misharu Kami Kalasav Marava. Here's how they sang the songs in front of the Kala Marava in Eretz Yisrael. Lo kol v'lo srak v'lo pirkus v'yalaschem. It's not in the cosmetics. And if the Kala doesn't need to beautify herself with, you know, that blue color on her eyes, and she doesn't need rouge on her face, she doesn't need to braid her hairs. Why? Because she is yalas chen. Chen is an inner beauty. And some say that Esther Amalka was not as beautiful as we think she was, but she had an inner beauty, a certain attractiveness. Some Rab Zera, where Rab Zera got Dayanas, they gave him smicha. Sharulei Haki. This is how they danced in front of him. Lo kchol, v'lo srak, v'lo pirkos, v'yalaschet. All these externalities, and they try to put you up and make you look beautiful and market you. That's meaningless. That's all superficial. What's really essential is yalaschet, an inner beauty that comes from spirituality, that comes from being connected to the Almighty, to the infinite, that goes beyond the material, physical, finite world of beauty. Rabbi Ami Rav Asi, Shorlei Hachi, they danced and sang in front of Rabbi Ami and Rav Asi with the words Kol Min Dain v'Kol Min Dain Smochu Lanu. Only Chachamim that live up to these models deserve smicha. Lo tismechu lana lo min sarmisin v'lo min sarnitin v'amri lo min chamisin v'lo min turmisin. Very clear, is it not? Well, it's all Aramaic to me. So let's start with sarmisim. Sarmisim is a word, the shoresh of which is sirus. Sirus is when you take something and you turn it inside out, upside down. Lisares is a mikra, for example. And what these people do, and it's quite common, is that they take the halachos and the misares the halachos. They'll try to convince you of this reasoning and that reasoning, this explanation, that explanation. So that's sarmisin. Miloshin misarse halacha shemahapchim es tameim. V'lo min sarmitin. Samratatun. She'ein nosnim tam hagun l'divreim. I think we're talking about people who, again, will distort the halacha, and whatever they say, they never give you the right explanation for it. And then we have chamisim. What chamisim? Chomsim. Chomsim, in this context, means they don't reveal the tamei mitzvahs of the Torah. They may reveal a fifth, 20%, but that's about it. And termisim are simply empty people. They have no insights. Rabbi Avo Kavi Asim Sifta, when he came back to the base mentioned by Kesar, Rabbi Avo was from Kesaria, so he came out from the house of the Kesar. Nafka Amos Nafka and Amahasa to Bay Kesar Liap. The maidservants, the shvachos of the Bay Kesar Liape, the shvachos of the Caesar would come out and greet him. They would sing in front of Rabbi Avo the following: Lo tirmisu, lo samitu, lo sampitu, lo menachmas. Rabba Diame, the Nasi of his people, Umad Barana di Umase, and the leaders of his people, leader of his people, Butzinun de Ahora, Brich Masyach Lishlom. Your countenance shines. May be blessed coming in and going out. Omer Lov Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi, this very controversial. Shoya Notel Bad. He would take a stem of Hadassah. Umarakid with an akala. The Omer Kala Nova Chasud. So why is he taking a branch from an Hadass tree? In the note here, he quotes the Ein Yaakov. Remez bazel midrashim al divrei hakos v'anaf eitz avos. Ze Yaakov. Okay. Certainly paskin like Beit Shammai, Kala Nova Chasuda. Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak Marakat class, he would juggle 3 Hadassah branches. Amar Abizera Karmachsiflan, you'll be Mavayish Asab, the elderly statesman. You're being Noe Kalis Rosh, you're being Azalto with covet of Talmidei Chachamim, this below your dignity. Ki noch nafshe, yet when Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak went to his infinite ultimate repose, Ifsik Amuda Denura, there was a stem, or shall we say a pillar of fire that came out of his grave, and it was in the shape of a hadass. And it separated Bein Dilei Tidei Likui Alma, from himself to the entire world. Ugamiri, and we have a tradition amongst our sages, Delo Afsik Amuda Denura. Elichad Ledara Bedara, Elitrei Bedara. Either one or the number 2. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was sending a simon min hashamayim that Rab Shmuel Bar Yitzchak did the right thing. This was not a zilzul or a kalas rosh in kvod Talmidei Chachamim. Om Rab Zera Hanyele Shtusiso Lisaba. Now, the word shutisa is a specific reference, an allusion to hadas. It's called a shot shel hadas. And that's the hadas that Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak would dance with. And through that, he merited the pillar of smoke, of fire. And others say, Amrila Shtuse Lisaba. Now, what is shtuse l'saba? Shitasim in haga amdo l'saba. He has a whole explanation here, the Eitz Yosef from the Ein Yaakov, that what the Gemara has in mind is to try to explain why Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai, who would also juggle Hadas, it doesn't say about him that he was Zocher to Nura Lamuda de Nura. What was unique about Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak? That this is the way he was knowing consistently all the days of his life. Rav Acha Markiv Lo Hakatzi, it's very controversial. Rav Acha took the Kala on his shoulders. Umerakin, and he danced with her on his shoulders. Amri le Rabbanon Anan Maul Mevedachi, should we all follow suit and imitate you? Amalahu idamyan alaychu kikishura lechai. Ilo lo. What is kishura? Kikora. She'ein lachem ba'hirur klal. Then lechai, you're allowed to do so. Vim lav, lo, you're not allowed to do it. And the question bothered my mind. We never find subjective laws. And someone could take himself out of the gzera, out of the chash. I mean, Gemara has full sugis about Shlomo HaMelech, who thought that he could marry as many women as he possibly wants, and it wouldn't steer him off the path. Omer Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmeni, Omer Rabbi Yochanan, Mutal Istakel Bnei Kala Kol Shiva K'dei L'Chav Baila. You're allowed to sort of gaze at the Kala, so the Chassan feels like she must be quite attractive, and people are looking at her. And today, we're allowed to do so. But let's say the Gemara rejects it outright. We cannot paskin like this statement in the name of Rabbi Yonasan, and we don't look into the Pnei Kal. There's not enough room for both the entourage of the Kala, who's leaving her father's house to come into the Beis HaChasanus for chuppah, and at the same time to bring the mess that they carry with a great entourage to his burial. So in this collision, and there's only enough room for one group to go by, we're going to give priority to the Kala. And that's called K'vod HaChaim Gadol Mikvod HaMesim. And Zeh V'Zeh Milifnei Melech Yisrael. We'll move aside even those who are part of the entourage, to give honor to the Mes or to the Kala, Melech Yisrael trumps all. Amru olav al Agrippas HaMelech sha'avar milfnei Kala v'shibchu chachamim. So it seems that the Melech was mochel on his kavod. And he veered off his derech for the sake of the Kal. And the Chacham were happy with it. So Gemara Shabchu Michal Chaparad. Avad, he did the right thing. For Omer of Ashi, Afilu Leman Diomer Nasi Shemochal Kvodo Kvodo Mochel. But Melech Shemochal Kvodo ain't Kvodo Mochel. The Omar Mar so to Simalecha Melech Shetei Moso Lecha. Again, let's just review the kasha here. On the one hand, Agrippas HaMelech veered off the road, went another road in order to honor the Kala. So the Gemara says that a melech cannot be mochan is covered. Why were they mishabech? Why were they happy with the behavior of the melech when ein kvodo mochel? And the Gemara answers Pashas Drachim Havi. Do you have anything here on Pashas Drachim Havi? He says Al Kein Lo Hayam Murgash Shemilifnei Akala Nota Shemilifnei Akala Nota Midark.
Yeah, it's a Parshat Drachim is a fork in the road.
And therefore what?
Therefore, he took the other route, and it only appeared that he was
veering off. But no, it didn't appear that he was veering off deliberately. Right. It looked like that was the direction that he wanted to go.
He wanted to go in.
Excellent. That's what he means here. He says, Lo yamurga shemipnei hakala not amidarka. So the mechila that a melech is enjoyed from, it's a mechila hanikeres. But this is not a mechila hanikeres. So you have to stop your learning Torah in order to bury the dead. And to take the kala from her father's house to the chuppah. Amr of Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eloi. Shoyim Avatel Talmitol Lotzas Hames Lachnosis Kala. What's the chiddush? When do we stop our learning Torah for the sake of burying the dead? Kisha in Kol Tzarka, Imo Kol Tzarka. There's not enough people. We'll see how many. according to the level of cover that we have to give him to participate in Levaya. Aval yeshimo kol tzorko mevatl. V'kama kol tzorko, Omer of Shmuel bar Eini, which made the Rav, Tresar Alfi Gavre, V'shisa Alfi Shipure, 12,000 men and 16,000 shofros. That's a mind-boggling number of shofros. Now, these shofros, I don't think these are shofros of Rosh Hashanah. He says here, Lahachriz she'avo anoshim l'lavos es hames. So in the old times, when they wanted to gather people together, they would blow these shofros. And they needed 12,000 men and 16,000 shofros for this particular deceased. Amri Leo the sage, Leisar Alfi Gabri Yunayu, Shisa Alfi Shipure. 12,000 men, and amongst those men, we have 6,000 Shipure upgrades. Now, what is the significance of these numbers here? All right, he has a long note here. I'm going to make a note to myself. Ula Omar Kigon de Chatzye Gavre Me'abula Viad Sichra. So Abula is the name of the Shar Ha'ir, Viad Sichra to the Beis HaKvaros. And you could have a mechitza of human beings, one human next to another attached, all the way from one city to the Makom Kvura, the Beis HaKvaros. Rav Sheshes Vitem Rav Yochanan Amar Nitilasa Kinesinasa Manisina B'Shishan Ribui Af Nitilasa B'Shishan Ribui. We need 600,000 people at the funeral. Otherwise, it's not Kedei Tzarko. That's only with regard to someone who died, who is Yodea Mikra and Shona B'Mishnah. But if he wasn't a Malami Torah, so the first category of Shishim Ribui is Kari V'Tani. Now we get to the next Darga, which is Kari V'Lotani. So V'Tani means Mishnah. But he studied for himself. He studied both Torah and Mishnah, meaning Tosh B'Sav and Tosh B'Al. Now on the top of it, Yudzayin and Beis, Havalaman B'Masli, less Lon Shiura. But someone who not only studies for himself, but he also teaches Torah, there's no limit whatsoever. Everybody is mavatel for the sake of the burial of this chacham that died. And that's the end of this sugya.